This is the way. Welcome back to the Old Head Reviews channel. In this video, we're going to discuss episode 5 of the book of Boba Fett. Or should we call it season 3, episode 1 of the Mandalorian? I don't know. But it was good. Let's go. Shout out to me having still the best t-shirt plug in the game, bro. Been holding on to this puppy for a minute. A little Mandalorian mixed with Mask, the old 80s cartoon. Welcome back. This is Old Head Reviews, and as always, I'm your host, Joey Sparks. That's 2 E's, no Y. You heard me, that's 2 E's, no Y. And yo, episode 5 was fire. And I hate to say, was it fire? Because, well, we'll get into that in a minute. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and the notification bell. That helps us move up in the algorithms. Appreciate it. Let's move on. So at the end of episode 4 of the book of Boba Fett, we heard the Mandalorian theme music, and sure enough, right when we start off, we're in the middle of a meat packing kind of a warehouse or something like that, and they kind of frame the doorway the same way he entered in his very first episode. Yeah, I'm talking about Mando. Din Djarin, or whatever his name is. He comes stepping through the slats. You hear the little spurs clinking as his boots are walking. And then you come find out he's looking to secure a bounty that he's looking for. And he makes his way to the back room and interrogates the bounty. And you see he's surrounded. And you can tell he's still got the spear from Ahsoka. And then I was wondering like, oh, shoot. Is he going to still wield the black saber? And sure enough, when the bounty wanted to give him a little pushback, you hear him say, I can bring you in warm or I can bring you in cold. Done. Sure enough, they get to scrapping and he gets to wielding the black saber. But the fight scene was awesome. I thought it was awesome, even though they were using it to kind of show that, like, you know, the black saber takes like some experience to wield and what have you, and he doesn't have that experience yet. He actually injures himself. He ends up chopping the bad guy in half. Was I the only one that was like, God damn, Disney? Like, I couldn't believe that was on Disney. He takes his bounty head to the person who hired him, and they do this long, drawn-out walking scene where he's injured and he can barely walk. He has to deliver this bounty off, but it almost kind of gave insight onto how lonely he is now. Like, he don't have Grogu anymore, and so he just out there bounty hunting, and that seems boring to him, or like at least lame now. The way they filmed it and just kind of let it sit on his journey to get there. He gets there, and you come to find out, it sounds like he wanted information instead of monetary payment. And then after that, he goes looking for the remainder of the Mandalorians. He turns on his infrared. He ends up finding the door, and we see the armorer. She's standing there in her mystique and everything, and I'm glad to see her character back. He shows her that he's got the dark saber, and then they kind of go into a scene kind of describing the history of the dark saber. If you're not familiar with the dark saber, first of all, the dark saber was created by Tar Vizsla, and he was the first Mandalorian to get inducted into the Jedi Order, right? So like the first Jedi Mandalorian, and then like the whole history behind the saber is the Mandalorian that wins the saber in like honorable duel becomes the leader of the Mandalorian. Anyone wielding that blade without winning it properly in battle puts a curse on Mandor. Now you know, and that's what I'm here for. So you get that history here, and then during this little history, you notice that one of the other remaining Mandalorian, Paz, I think is his name, the bigger heavyset one, I think he was voiced by Favreau, I'm not sure. You can see he's kind of jealous and looks like he wants to own that black saber. After the history lesson on the black saber, we get another forging scene with the armorer and Mando. The armorer takes the spear from Mando and says, we'll make you armor from this Beskar. But this spear pierces Beskar, and we have to get rid of it because otherwise it's threat to all Mandalorians. I thought that was dope. And then he asks, can you make some armor for a youngling. And she goes, which youngling? And he says, Grogu. He would like to give him something. And she, sure enough, goes ahead and wields it down. It looked like little rings, like almost chain mail rings, like he can form something with it later. So he's going to have his own Beskar. And then when she hands it to him, she ties it to him in like a little bandana thing with the imagery of Grogu, the ears. Come on, man. That's good writing, bro. That's good directed. That's set design, and like that's pulling all parts and all heartstrings on all of us who watch these Star Wars films religiously. After the armorer forges armor for the youngling, for Mando, we cut to a scene where Mando is training with the armorer with the black saber. When we come to find out, the black saber has different properties than maybe a normal lightsaber. If you're not one with the saber, it gets harder and harder to wield per hit. And so he's still trying to figure that out. Well, then here come Paz. Paz challenged him to a duel for it. And the armor steps aside and they get to banging. Well, Mando ends up getting the best of him and the armor halts him. And then she asks Paz, have you ever removed your helmet? He answers no. And then she asks Din Djarin, and he pauses, and sure enough, he says, yeah, I have. And then she says, very stoically, then you're no longer a Mandalorian. Man, bro. He asked for a way, like he asked for repentance. They tell him there's a way, but that way might be done because like the location is no longer there. So he ends up leaving. He ends up getting on like a commercial flight and has to put his weapon in like a weapon storage unit. I don't know why they drew that scene out so long. I'm assuming later on that's going to have some importance that comes up. But as of right now, he got to the other side and had everything left in there, including the Darksaber. So after he regains all his weapons on Mos Eisley, he meets back up with Pelimoto. Pelimoto, we saw in the last episode of The Mandalorian walking by the Stormtrooper helmets on sticks, right? Well, it seems like he was coming back and had commissioned her to find him a new Razor Crest. She told him she couldn't find a Razor Crest, but what she did find him was an N1 starfighter. If you're not familiar with what an N1 starfighter is, it is guards from the prequels, the Royal Palace of Naboo. They used these ships. And so, like, they're super fast, super old, and hard to get a hold of. Well, then they go through a montage of him and her finding the parts and putting it together. He ends up taking it for a spin, and it is super fast. No one is going to have a ship as fast as Mando. And because it was built back in the Old Republic, it doesn't have like a locator chip in it or something like that. Well, that comes into play when he almost gets pulled over by a pair of X-Wings. And then they asked too many questions and my man Din Djarin dipped out. He was not having it. And we get to see how fast this new ship goes, right? Well, sure enough, when he returns back, Fennec Shan is there asking for that muscle help that Boba Fett needs. And Mando says he can definitely help. And he'll do it free of charge, but first he's got to make a stop. Let's assume that's to go peek in on Grogu and see how he's doing. I loved this episode. Man, I loved it. I have my critiques, but the more and more I sit and think about this episode, the more and more I really appreciate the Mandalorian series. Like how much I missed that. And this is no disrespect to Boba Fett, or maybe even the writers for this series, but why is the Mandalorian episode where we don't see any of Boba Fett like matching the energy of like my favorite Boba Fett episode? And on this one, man, it showed you how the action for a Mandalorian should go down. We got great action scenes. We got great nostalgia. Maybe that's swaying some of my fanboyism, but you know, and then you get some of the imagery from classic movies that I've seen that I enjoy and love. Like, just like how Mando stepped through the first saloon doors in his very first episode is how he entered into this episode. When they were flashing back to the droids that were taking over the planet, that gave me like Terminator vibes, like for real, like T2 vibes all day, right? Even when Mando entered the elevator, he almost like looked like even the nod to what I thought was Spider-Man in the elevator. I mean, you tie in some of those, you know, nods to classic cinema that has come before it, plus the fact that you give us nostalgia for bringing Mando back, and then you give us incentive to want to ride along with Mando to go back and see Grogu. Come on, man. Give Grogu his youngling armor. Come on, man. The one thing I do need to be critical about is the montage of putting his ship together. I love the fact that he got a new ship. I hated the drawn outness of the montage and the little comic relief from Pelimoto. I like Pelimoto, but that was too much. Sue me, boo me, I don't care. I felt like that montage. I've seen montages before. That was just longer than the average montage needed to be. We don't need to know about parts of the engine and stuff. We just need to know that y'all fixed it. Y'all can drop them lines. Oh, I got a power converter. Keep it moving. You know what I mean? If you asking me my score, I feel like giving it a 9 out of 10 is a fanboy move, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, man. And I hate the fact that Boba wasn't in it, and I'm giving it a... This is almost like a preload to season 3 of Mandalorian. Like, he's going to come back. Hopefully he gets to go see Grogu, dap him up, give him some little youngling armor, or we can find out how Grogu maybe hopefully isn't there in the Jedi Academy when Kylo Ren flips out and kills everybody from Luke's Academy. But then I want you to chill on that. I want you to get Mando over here so you can get Boba Fett the help that he needs. Then we can wrap that story up so we can get back to yo ass and see what's popping with you. Like, how are you going to maneuver with this new Blacksaber? How do you learn how to wield the Blacksaber? Do you even make it back to help Boba Fett? These are the questions I want to know. These are the questions I can't wait to discuss the answers to next week. Once again, thank you for tuning in. Always appreciate your support. Please, if you enjoy the content, I would love for you to consider hitting that subscribe button. Let's discuss what you enjoyed about this episode in the comments, or what you didn't enjoy. Once again, this is Joey Sparks signing off for Old Head Reviews, and we'll see you next week. I'm out.